Welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, we are going to learn about the functions. So we are going to make our own function in this lecture, but just remember, we have made use of the functions, inbuilt functions of the Python couple of times in the earlier lectures too. So if you just remember about the modules, that is random module, let's go to the documentation again. Let's press F1 or just go to the help and just press this Python docs, go to the modules part, random, R for random, and see the random. So all of these is your methods or the functions. So if you made use of this rand range, this is your functions. If you see rand int, this is also your functions. So we are making use of these inbuilt functions of this Python. You are making use of input method, which is the inbuilt function. You have made use of print. We have made use of so many times the print. It is also inbuilt function. We have made use of range method in the previous lecture, which is going to return us a range object. This is also the inbuilt function. So let's create our own function now. So first of all, before creating our own functions, let's think why this function is essential. So that would be because we don't want to repeat yourselves, which is your dry principles. So what dry principle says is don't repeat yourself. If you want to do the same tasks, why you are creating the same code again and again? Just make a code in a way that you can call that whenever you need the same code to be executed. So let me say something like, before creating any function, so let me say I want to add 3 and 4. So I'm just giving us logic over here why this function is important. So I'm saying I want to create a program that will just add 3 and 4 every time. So in the function, in very much we are just making a program. Okay, we are just making a program where we'll see that whenever we just want to launch or just make a product, we have to call that is the addition of 3 and 4. So instead of just writing 3 plus 4 every time, so we have to just say something like print me 3 and 4 first time. And if you want to do again in the next module, you have to say something like 3 and 4 again. The same code has to be repeated again and again if you want to do same tasks, which is addition of 3 and 4 multiple times. So instead of doing this, what if we just create a method or a function which will do the same tasks, and instead of just writing this code again and again, we can just call that function to do the same tasks whenever we need it. So let's see. So first of all, I'll say add. This is going to just do sum. Okay, sum. Okay, I think sum add, or basically add 2 to 4, 2 3, add num. Okay, so I'm getting the idea over here that it is the function, and give the colon, and over here I'm going to add 3 and 4. So now we have created a function which is going to do only one thing, that is adding a 3 and 4 every time we call this function. So calling is with the name only. We'll just pass the name, we pass the parenthesis, and just give this add num. If I save this, run F5 with F5, it is going to give us 7. So every time it is going to give us 7. So instead of just writing again this print, now we can simply do is add num. We can simply call this add num, and it will just execute the same code again. So it is showing us 7 and 7 again. So if you want to use this again the 4 time or 5 times, no problem, just call this. You don't need to write code again and again. So it should seem something like for you that is okay, this is only one line code. So what if we have 1000 lines of code over here? So instead of writing 10,000 line of code again and again, you can simply call that method which will be executing that 1000 line of code. So this will just implement our dry principle from these Python implementations of the functions. So now what you need to do is simply create a function which will just do something for us. So to do that, we'll say def. Def is the define keyword which is usually used in the case of Python. So we'll say the info is my function, and you just give this parenthesis denoting that this is the function. So over here what you need to do is just print I like, okay, and you know this is the way to format, and I hate, okay, I don't hate, but I normally type hate over here, and I'll just format using this format keyword. And let's see, we don't have anything to format with. Let's go down and call the info, and in this info I want to pass the string name as Python and Java. Okay, so you are seeing here that we have passed in this info, so info has been called, this function has been called, and we are just passing two string over here, Python and Java as a string. But if you see in this info, we don't have anything that is placeholder for this Python and Java. So this is where we just pass a parameter over here. So if I say a comma b, Python will be in this a, Java will be in this b. So now we can format with this a and b. So let's close this, save this, press F5. You'll see I like Python and I hate Java, which is not the case. I like Java too, but I'm just saying I hate Java over here. So what we just did here was we just passed the argument as a parameter in this function in here. What if I want to just remove this Java, and if I save this and press F5, it is going to give us an error saying missing one required positional argument b. So what we need to know over here is this a and b over here is a positional argument. So if you just pass anything in this field, you have to pass as a position. So if you don't pass, it is going to show us an error. So if I say Java first, and if I say Python, you'll see the complete opposite meaning of what we just expect. So save this, press, then it is saying I like Java and I hate Python, which is obviously not the case. But this Java will be not in B now, it will be in A. So it is a positional argument. So the order matters over here. Whatever you pass first will be in this positional argument, which is the first positional argument. Second will be goes to the second. If you just pass any third over here, it will go to the C. If you just pass something as an argument over here, so the order matters over here. But what if I say something like Python, and if I remove this, it is still going to show us error. That is, it is required to have the one positional argument B. But instead of this passing from here, I want to pass as a default argument. I'll say Java over here. Now you have the excuse, and if I just print with the F5, it is going to give us that I like Python and I hate Java, because we have now default argument. We have passed this default argument. If we don't pass over here, it will work as a default. So this is the work of default argument. But if you pass Java over here, and if you just leave this B, it is not going to work. So just remember that the argument will be default. So default argument should always be over here at the last. So it has given us error showing that non-default argument follows default argument. That means not default should be at first, and that should follow by the default argument. So default argument should be always at the last. So this should be default argument, and non-default argument should be at the beginning. So this is the way to execute our method. So next thing is to return. So let's see, instead of print, what I want to do is I'll say return me this string by formatting. And now because it is returning something, I'll just catch over here. So I'll say info has been cached, and let's print this info. If I save this, press F5, it is going to give us I like Python and I hate Java, because we are just returning something from the function. Because we have returned something, it should be catch over here where we just call our function, and we have just printed that message which is returned from the function. So this is the return keyword which is going to return us the value. So if I just say something like return me 4 and addition of 6, and I'll just say print info, save this, it is going to give us 10 because it is returning the addition, and it is just saving over here, that is 10, and we are just printing this value as a 10. So this is our functions. So we can just create these functions, give the def keyword, function name, and inside the parenthesis, if you want to have any argument which is the default argument or non-default argument, just pass over here and make use of the code inside this function. And calling the function is the another part with these parameters you want to pass to that argument which is used while defining the functions. So next thing is to see the lambda functions, and they are also called the anonymous functions in the Python. So lambda functions can have any number of argument but only one expressions. So in Python we have seen now to create the user defined function with the def keyword and giving the name, but the anonymous function doesn't have any name. That is the beauty of the anonymous function. Let's see how this anonymous function can be created. So anonymous function have return type, so something like double. So I'm just saying double will be returned, and if you want to make use of the anonymous function, it should be with this keyword lambda functions. So it is also called sometimes the lambda functions because we make use of this lambda keyword. So after that lambda, make use of the argument that you want to pass and the value. So let me say x multiplied by 2, and I want to print the double of 5. Let me say double of 5. It is going to give us obviously 10 value. So this is also a function. So what we just did here was, let me just define our normal functions. So I'm just doing something like x and printing me x multiplied by 2 and calling that function with 5 value in it. So if you do same, it will just give us 10 and 10. So this is done by the lambda functions or the anonymous functions, and this is our normal user defined function. So here we can see this lambda keyword contains an expression, which is this expression, and the argument. So this argument can be any number of argument. It can be 1 argument, 2 argument. You can simply pass y over here, z over here, but this expression which is x multiplied by 2, it should be only single. So you can't simply pass here something like y multiplied by 8 again. This is not valid. It should be only one time. You can do something like the x multiplied by y multiplied by z. This is valid. So you can simply pass here in the double 5, 8 and 9. You can save this, press F5, you will get the value, but the expression should be only 1. This is only valid if you pass here something, the expression 2, 3 expression, it won't be valid. So this is the lambda functions. We have to explore more of this in the upcoming lecture. We'll see the packing and unpacking the arguments, keyword arguments in the upcoming lecture. But for now, we have seen how to work with the functions, how to create our own functions. We have been using the couple of functions in the earlier lectures like print function, range function and input function. But for now, we have seen how to create our own functions and just execute it by our own way. See you in the next one.